Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. It is the Wednesday, January 22nd edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the Well Point Studios here in very chilly downtown Lowell. I woke up today, my phone's digital thermometer said -6 degrees, and John Descoteaux, Lowell City Councilor John Descoteaux, is joining us as well. You don't seem bothered by this.
I was gonna cancel.
I
looked outside. It was 6 degrees. No.
It was really cold this morning. I showed my kids the phone. My kids were in awe. They'd never heard minus numbers before, unless they're talking about wind chills. So I showed them my phone, and they're like, "Oh, you think?"
I was ready to pull out remember the old things, the one piece.
Oh, yeah.
With the trap in the back. Bring back some memories.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, and you kind of did it on. I was trying to get City Councilor Rita Mercier in here, and unfortunately her schedule didn't work. But you were able to come in and pitch it on.
I do love retirement.
You do. Yeah, you got nothing else to do. Who knows? Maybe you could become a permanent co-host.
I'll take it over
with me.
No, you just want me to sponsor the show.
No, hell no, not at all. Thank you for joining us. But Speaking of sponsors, I'm going to take a quick minute here to thank our sponsors of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. Of course, Real Estate Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. If you're looking to buy or sell a residential or commercial property or have it appraised in one of those two states, Real Estate Ray Booten is your man. RealEstateRayBooten.com is the web address. Of course, we're coming to you from the Well Point Studios. Well Point is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At Well Point, your whole health is their whole point. We thank our friends at Well Point. We thank Real Estate Ray. We got a bunch of other sponsors. We'll thank them as we go along, but I want to get right into the discussion with Councilor John Descoteaux. Actually, you were a municipal employee up until your retirement.
Yeah.
Were you part of Well Point? Was that your health plan?
No, it was Tufts Navigator.
Oh, you were Tufts. We gotta get you onto Well Point.
But I am on Well Point now.
Oh, you are on Well Point now
because there's no more Tufts Navigator, so they went to Well Point. So
yeah,
worked out. Actually, they do. I don't see too many bills. And I have been in the hospital a couple of times, as you know.
Yes. Yeah, we won't. No health discussion. But they're from what I'm told, they get over like 50%.
Yeah,
of certain markets that they have. It's a great company.
But that's what you want, right?
Yep, that's exactly what you want. So good. I'm glad you're now with Well Point. Can you please tell them, in case they're watching, that you did it because you saw them here?
Well, you just gave me something to read, so that's why I'm going to.
You want to do the next sponsor read? All right. Last night's meeting, I scheduled the city councilors to come in the morning after the meeting. And I've had the mayor, I've had the city manager.
Put him on the hot seat, right?
Now I got you. Yeah, we'll talk about it. You guys were done at 7:27. I need more content. I get it. We don't want to be pushing the 10 o'clock curfew every week, but I need something a little bit more from you guys than 4 councilor motions and a 7:27 p.m. adjournment. Can you do something for me, Councilor?
Well, I think on the 4 there was also one day that we had to have all the motions in by Thursday due to the Martin Luther King holiday. So, in the week before, I think we were at 9:15 before that. So there was a lot to digest from the prior meeting. But last night, I'm actually out of that hour, I believe 15-20 minutes was pretty much a content of some Lowell High students concerning issues with mold issues at the Pawtucket, which I thought they did an outstanding job.
Yeah, they were the stars of the council meeting last night. Felt like every councilor kind of had to follow up with a quick little speech about the kids' appearance. I've got some questions about that, if you don't mind. I know you've been you've been hyper-focused, along with a few other counselors, on the issues at Pawtucketville Memorial School. So the information that the kids were relaying last night, they mentioned specific issues, they talked about it and whatnot. Are those new issues? Have those just popped up this year, or does that go back to the discussions you were having, in September when school first started, and dare I say even last year?
Well, first off, when I got to my chair, the letter was there. So we did not receive the letters prior to getting to it. So I was kind of reading as they were speaking, but it seemed like much of the content that they provided was ongoing issues that were happening probably in July of August of last year, and that have been kind of they've checked them off the list. Yes, I have been going to the Pawtucket on a monthly basis, and obviously people think, well, the only reason why you're going there is because your daughter teaches at the Pawtucket, and I get firsthand, knowledge of what's going on, and other teachers. And Pawtucketville Memorial serves quite a few students, and there are areas in that school that they're using for classrooms that are not classrooms. And I think they pointed that out last night, that Lisa Golden, that there was one room which was a 15 by 25-foot room, which actually Councilor 𝐉𝐨𝐬𝐢𝐝 and myself went into, and there was no vent in the room. So it was like 105 degrees. Now that's changed. They've Mr. Underwood and Mr. Leahy have kind of worked on that issue and continuous issues. My worry was last night, and I did ask Miss Golden, was yes, we are having air quality reports, but I want to know if there's any mold spores popping up anywhere in the school. Obviously, we're really looking forward to this summer when a lot of the work at the Pawtucket will be done to hopefully rectify this problem. But we need to keep an eye on it. And it's not just like, okay, yeah, we've done this. Now let's just forget about it. If your custodians are there and they're cleaning the rooms, they should be noticing that if there see any mold spores on any of the tiles or on the wall. And I want to make sure that that's happening. So on a monthly basis, the custodial like Mr. Underwood and Mr. Leahy should give us, the city council and the school committee, a report of we're not finding anything at this point. Everything seems to be going pretty well. And obviously the months of December, January, February, March, I don't think your counts are going to be too high. It just starts when, getting a little humid out and the heat starts coming is when it starts to spread out again.
And so the good news is there aren't new issues popping up, or they weren't, that wasn't the focus of the discussion by the students last night. This is stuff that had been ongoing.
But it was very informative, though. Like they really had their numbers down, and I felt like I was reading a report from
they're
the
in
company.
there every single. Honestly, they're the best reporters, students and teachers, because they're in that building every day and they see every nook and cranny.
And they did converse with many people when they wrote that report. So kudos to them.
So what could potentially be troubling is, are these issues being taken care of? How many of these issues, how much of that checklist has been checked off as completed and is no longer an issue? How much of it is still going on 4 months later, 8 months later, years later, in particular with the mold concerns at Pawtucketville Memorial?
At this point, I'm being told that there are no mold spores or any mold in the school. Okay. Now, once again, I will be visiting probably next week or the week after, and I will go through
with your magnifying glass and looking.
It was funny. Councilor 𝐉𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 and myself were in there a couple of weeks ago, and Eric has a temperature gauge he's going through. Look like Inspector Gadget. I go, what is that?
Did he have the trench coat?
Oh yeah, the whole thing. No. But we went through the rooms. There were a couple that had spores in one of the rooms, and suppose that's being taken care of, and I will personally inspect it myself just to make sure that what we got going on. And I've also spoken with the principal and the assistant, and please call me if you're not getting any satisfaction on your side, and I'll make sure that we get something done from the administration's point of view.
So the two words were said again last night, facilities department. I believe it was Councilor Robinson who mentioned that. And I talked about it with the manager last week. And he actually said, at least in terms of the high school, he believes that there should be dedicated facilities people for there. In terms of combining a city and school facilities department into one, he talked about, there are issues that need to be hammered out, and the kind of stuff that I hadn't even thought of it, but whose supervision do they fall under, which union do they fall under? And my ears perked up last night when Councilor 𝐉𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 told the kids, we'd like to get this stuff, we're working on this stuff, we'd like to get it done faster, but there's some union issues. And I heard those words and I'm like, ooh, that's the discussion we're having. That's where things get sticky. That's where government can get sticky, right? And it's not a union thing, but it's a bureaucratic thing. That's like, wait, well, who do you report to? Who's your supervisor? Who oversees what department? Who does this and that? And then there are contracts in there that people have signed a contract that says, well, we report to so and so. Our duties are this and that. So you can talk about training, janitors to also be able to do some work on HVAC equipment or whatever, right? Custodians, I apologize, incorrect word, or vice versa. But is that in their contract as their job responsibilities? And if you're going to change it, where are you going to come up with the money?
When I was first elected, I believe it was Councilor 𝐉𝐨𝐡𝐧 had brought the motion to the floor about a full comprehensive facilities department away from the land and buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of brushed it aside because I was still learning and trying to evolve in my job. But the more that it's come up, I'm buying into it. And the reason is, I think the city is a more reactive city than we are a proactive city. We have schools, which we call new, that are now 33, 34 years old. All right. Do we have a maintenance plan for any of these schools? Or do we just wait till something breaks and then we go fix it? So I've come to the point where I want to start a conversation. Do I think this is going to be an easy conversation? Do I think it's all going to resolve itself in a couple of months? No, I think it's going to be a long drawn out. But I personally think that we should have our own facilities department at this point. I just do, where you have kind of two bosses, be it one comes under Mr. Underwood and the other one comes under Mr. St. Cyr. But I do have an issue from the school perspective when you have custodians that are working a 3 to 11 shift with no supervision. There isn't a nighttime supervisor, which was taken away from the budget probably 10, 12 years ago. I do remember that. And now there's nobody supervising their work. I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, but what I'm thinking is, why can't we have our custodians trained in HVAC, electrician, whatever the case may be? I mean, we have custodians that now, under the union contract, can't paint a wall.
But
doesn't that sound a bit odd to you?
It does, except you negotiated a custodian pay raise, not necessarily you, whoever does those negotiations. Right. Now you're adding on responsibilities, or you're doing a responsibility that is perhaps considered a more skilled craft, right? Plumbers get more, HVAC people get more than cleaners.
But so isn't that okay, though, Teddy, if you do train those people and you put them in that union? Because eventually, if we have a school and something major happens because of us not doing our job and keeping up with the maintenance, don't you think it'll even out?
100%. But you're going to have to increase those budgets significantly. Absolutely. And you're probably going to have to go back and collectively bargain, unless you want to start thinking radically. I mean, do you privatize some of these services? I know that
there are school systems that are doing that.
Yes,
I mean,
there are.
There are unions that where they have custodians in the morning and they privatize it in their 3 to 11 shift. There are schools
when the kids are out of the school.
Kids
right?
are out of the school, and they're held accountable. All right. I think it's a long, drawn out process, and I really do. But I want to start at least the communication, because I just think that we'd be more effective as a city in maintaining the buildings that the way we have 27 schools, and we have no maintenance plan for everything. So now we're going to have, one person in charge at Lowell High School now? There should be 4. How many does the Greater Lowell vocab? They have 4. So why don't we take 4 custodians and make them accountable for 5 or 6 schools? And they go through it. So they're trained in other aspects, electrician, HVAC, anything like that. And you know what? They're looking at stuff that, this has been here for 10 years. We should look at this and maybe, let's look at repairing or replacing stuff. We're not doing that now. It's just we're waiting for something bad to happen. So the Pawtucket, Lowell is a great example. We just let it go, let it go, let it go, and yeah, we'll wipe off the mold and we'll call it a day. You know, I'm not placing blame on anybody, but I think it's time for us to be a more proactive city as pertains to our school buildings.
So you're, after originally not really being too keen on the idea of facilities department, you now are ready to start having discussions, as you say.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear from my colleagues as well what they feel about it, because I just think it's a win-win. Yes, I think the discussions with the unions will be difficult, I'm sure, but I think it makes us a better city.
Are you willing to discuss privatization of any type of services, especially repair services?
I mean,
if it proves too difficult to train people to do
I would.
certain things.
I would.
You would be open to having that discussion.
I would. I think I just lost 50 votes.
50.
I forgot how big your viewership was.
This one could spread quickly. So you are open to the idea of privatization?
If in fact discussions with the unions become futile, then I think it might be something to look at. I wouldn't want to go that way. I mean, we are talking about people's lives here and they're making a living, but I also want to make sure that we're getting the most out of the employees that we have working for the city right now, be it in the schools and in land and buildings and all that. I mean, we just got to hold people accountable, make sure they're doing their jobs. And like I said, I'm not pointing at any particular person or department, but I think we have some really good people at the top of like Mr. St. Cyr is an outstanding employee. He keeps us up to date. Mr. Underwood's, his whole career building and everything. We need to make sure those people hold their people accountable, because guess what? They're the big kahunas, and it's all going to fall on them if something goes wrong.
Ultimately, yes, indeed. Before we get off the schools, high school, 2 meetings, or not last night's meeting, but the meeting before, that was a big discussion. 2 meetings before that, big discussion. What kind of response have you gotten since those last couple of meetings? Are you seeing some action? I was told last week the manager said the bleacher folks were supposed to come out either last Wednesday or Thursday and rectify that situation.
I'm not sure if the hardwood floor has been completed, repaired, along with the bleachers. Those two, I'm not sure. I know they're in the stages of doing it correctly. And I think what we've seen at this point has pretty much been shoddy work, and making sure that this gets rectified. And I believe 90 or 95% of the checklist has been punched off. So, but more to that is, why did this all finally come onto the lap of the city council and the city administration? When you have a door handle that's not fixed for 10 months, give me a reason. If the OPM, SCANSA, keeps on telling Perkins and Eastman, who designed it, or Suffolk, that they're not doing their job, then let the city administration know, and the city council and school committee, let everybody know, because, hey, listen, if it comes down to liquidated damages, I'm more than happy to throw them out there, because we don't need a 1980 building again. This is a $400 million project, and we're talking about door handles. Please.
Are you
going to make me lose more votes?
I'm gonna try. You talked about liquidated. It's interesting because, again, going back to the discussion with the manager, he talked about there are steps that the city could potentially take.
Sure.
In that regard. How confident are you, after listening to these last couple of weeks, that things such as the contingency money and also the time frames, they said they're going to have it open by August of 2026.
That was my question to
I didn't hear a lot of confidence.
Well,
yes, it was your question, which tells me you're not that confident.
Well, I mean, I guess the city manager can only answer what he is being told, and it's August of 26. Is that a reality? I up to date, last update we had is that everything is projected to be online for August of 26. But once again, we are talking about a $400 million project, and is that going to happen? Will it be September, October? I don't know at this point. I just want to make sure that the lines of communication are open here, because as we continue to move on, we don't need these punch list items to come up and not be repaired within a timely manner. And we weren't. And nobody knew. Or if they did know, nobody told anybody else about it. And I think that's where the frustration came with the council, is that why does it take 10 months to fix a door handle? You know, why does it take pictures of leaks coming out down from into the boys' locker room? I go, this is just ridiculous. So people need to be held accountable. I think the communication, we need, you know, people say monthly. I'd like to see weekly reports saying, okay, this is done, this is done. You know, the officials, the principal at the, you know, Mr. Fiato, is he, listen, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And at least the city manager and Mr. Skinner can see, all right, something's wrong here. We're all on top of it now. Let's get it done. But we let it wait. We let it wait. We let it wait. And then you have 20 punch list items that you have to fix. That shouldn't happen.
So if it makes you feel better, and I did discuss this last week, the Waltham High School, there's actually they're having a bleacher problem.
Yeah, I heard.
But they also they have complaints if it's 100 degrees in one room and 50 degrees in another. That's a brand new building. Now these it sounded like what was going on at the Pawtucketville, you know, school.
That's what's happening at Lowell High.
But is it happening? Is it happening at Lowell High now, or is at least the HVAC issues in the new buildings?
So good.
So far, so good. Okay, so there's a positive.
You know, so, but there are other schools that are having problems with, you know, too cold or too hot. So once again, getting back to a facilities department, then we have people that are there that, hey, you have these 6 schools. Let's make sure you maintain them the way they're supposed to be maintained, because our schools are not getting any younger, and there's nothing online that's brand new. What's the youngest school? Stocklosa at this point, I think, maybe, and then the Maury. And I think that might be the 2 buildings that we last built. But when you're talking, the majority of our buildings are at least 30, 40, 50 years old. I mean, you're just looking for trouble if we don't maintain these buildings. It's going to happen. You know, but then I look at the Moody School, the Washington School, they're running fine. You know, great schools.
All built around the same time.
19, well, I won't go into that.
Honestly, we don't need another 1980s building at Lowell High, but we need a 1922 building.
I'll take a 1922.
Honestly, I think for all the issues it has, it's a 100-year plus building.
I have a house from 1922. No problem.
They don't build things like
they don't.
Used to.
They just don't.
I can promise you that.
Yeah.
We're chatting with Lowell City Councilor Johnny Descoteaux. He's joining us here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, January 22nd edition of the Daily Pulse. So for those of you who watch this today, I'm going to give you a little tease. Go sign up, InsideLowell.com, and become a member of our e-blast list. Later on today, we're going to release an interview that I think you're going to want to see. I think it's an interview that people have been waiting for a little over a year now. So I think you want to go sign up, become a member of the In Crowd. Doesn't cost you anything, and I'm not going to bombard you with emails, I promise you. But you do get some special offers, prizes, and also some content before anybody else will get it. Today's going to be one of those days, and I think you're going to want to sign up. Also want to say thank you to all of our Inside Lowell podcast sponsors. Of course, Real Estate Ray Booton, sponsor of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. Find them online at realestaterayBooton.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. We're coming to you from the WellPoint studios at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. I mean, how much more homey can you get than my Washington Savings Bank coffee mug here? They take care of me. You don't even have to put coffee in it. It's not clear, so nobody knows what's in there.
I do.
Councilor don't know. But make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell since 1925. And if you're a Mahoney Oil customer, you're probably warm today. They've been great organization, great company for over 100 years, even better family. Greater Lowell Community Foundation, the newest member of our Inside Lowell family, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through impactful strategic philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on since 1982, and by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Songus Arena in downtown Lowell. March 21st, their kickoff for the 2025 season. They're signing some really good offensive players, by the way. So going to be it's a fun night. My son loved
it's a good take.
going to those games. He was upset a couple of the games I couldn't take him to, and he was like legitimately mad at me.
Yeah, so. I think they did a great job last year, and they're going to be hopefully up. They've signed a couple of new players. I did notice so.
And they actually like to be here. They want to be in Lowell, which is,
Well, plus they're being part of the community too. I know they've been to schools.
Of course they have.
So that's the way to do
it. City of Lights, they march. Right. I saw them out at the Chelmsford Independence Day parade last year. They threw, as a matter of fact, my kid randomly got a football thrown to him by one of the players. Wow. He treasured that thing. So they're a good community partner. They're not, and they don't want to go play at the Agganis Arena. So
shocking.
I can't help myself.
I have to be a jerk. I knew you were going to do that.
I have to be a jerk. All right. One thing last night, there was an update, a manager's report, a follow-up on how the no camping ordinance is working at South Common. And I see the response here from Maura Fitzpatrick, the city's director of homeless initiatives. And she mentioned that it looks like very few people are out there. And when there are people out there camping, they're immediately approached by the co-op team and the Lowell Police Department, and they're being offered service. They're being told this is where you can go. Same as the folks originally. When the camping ban was passed, people went in proactively and started telling them, as of such and such day, you're not going to be able to camp here. I got a question, though. Visually, the situation is better. It's not the bleep show it was in the summer, in the early fall. Do we know how many of these folks are actually taking advantage of the services now that the camping ban? Have we seen an increase in the number of people who are either using the shelter or the other resources since the camping ban was put in, or are they simply just relocating somewhere else and they're not as visible as they were at South Common?
We are seeing an uptick at the shelter, and obviously due to the weather. I mean, days like this, you are going to see an uptick. I also, in driving around the city, I'm seeing small pockets of people, and they're still at the convenience store. I probably saw 15 or 20 near the dumpster and a couple other spots in the city, but not to the level of what we saw in the summer. I think Chief Udon, LPD, I mean, Ms. Fitzpatrick and Ms. Golden have done a good job communicating, and I'm actually surprised how quickly the numbers went down there. And then I think it was on Facebook, I forget who put it on, but watching kids sledding down South Common, that to me was like
what it was actually intended for, right? Those hills.
That's perfect, so it's nice to see that they can play without making sure they're not going to get stabbed with a needle or seeing conduct that's unbecoming.
And hopefully the uptick in the shelter and other services does continue to manifest itself, and it stays around when the cold weather goes away. But
my worry, though, Teddy, is that when it does become spring again, is once again, it's not a question of the city not offering services. We are offering services, but they're being denied by many of the people saying
Gambit doesn't do shelters.
That's right.
Imagine
exactly. You know what I mean? So
you have an opportunity to have a shelter and you don't get one.
You don't get
one. Or actually, you lived in housing and you checked yourself out.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can send it up to Governor Ayotte in New Hampshire. I'm sure she'll take it.
Thank you. Let me ask you this, though. There were efforts. South Common was ground zero. That was the focus of like, hey, we got to stop this and the overnight camping. But folks said, well, they're just going to go somewhere else. And you yourself said you've driven around and you're seeing smaller pockets in other areas of the city. Are the efforts being made by the co-op team and the police to move everybody along from those areas as well? And do we know that? Was that discussed?
It seems like it's the timing. Like if I went by that variety store right next to South Common, I didn't see anybody at night, but during the day, there were probably 20 of them near the dumpsters. And it seems like that's the time that they stay there. where they move on to, I've seen 8 to 10 at certain other areas in the city, but not even close to what we saw at South Common. And I mean, that was just that really looked bad for the city at that time. I think it's going to be that again this time? No, I don't. I think the Chief Udon and all the people that I mentioned, I think they finally got a grasp of it. And like I said, trying to get those people to get the help that they need is vital. It really is, because if they don't, we're back again to where we were. I don't think we are. I think we've made some strides here.
All right. Well, let's hope that we're going to start to see a report at some point about them utilizing the shelters or other services that are available more often. That would be a win-win.
Right. And I brought up Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Miss Gold, and Chief Hu. These are people that are doing a tremendous job for the city. They care. And they're in the right positions. Those are the right people in the right positions. And I always get updates from Miss Golden, and she knows what's going on. She's spot on.
All right. Speaking of caring, why don't you care about history and historic structures like the Smith Baker Center? Why were you in such a hurry to tear it down and making that motion last week?
So 24 years ago, I would have been 39 years old. So,
a lot less gray hair.
Yeah, a lot less gray hair. So I think I've been patient enough in 24 years that nothing's happened to the building. And it's gotten to the point that it's not. I can find a lot better ways to use $30 million than restoring that. And, I understand the group's effort. I respect them for that. But I think the building is just too far gone at this point. I did bring up during that meeting, we talk about housing. And that was the big thing when I first ran, is that we need more housing. Well, I think we're at a point that we've done our job with that. The CBA has done the job. I mean, you look at Merrimack Street now. Look at all the affordable housing that's gone on there. What I'm looking to, but we're not probably, I think we'll need to have some conversations with HUD. But I would like to see some market rate housing go in that spot. But I think under HUD, it has to be affordable housing. But
does it all have to be affordable, or can you do some kind of a mix?
I did talk to Ms. Baez-Rose last night and try to get some clarification after the meeting. And she was going to look into that, because if we could have a little bit of both. But I'm against it being rentals. If it's going to be affordable housing, I want it to be owner occupied. So, and some nice greenery space, and I think it would enhance the downtown, and when people say, well, they're not going to have disposable income, well, I think they will. If they're getting 70 cents on the dollar, maybe some of that money can go to the Athenian restaurant, or you know what I mean.
Where's my gratuitous plug bell?
Exactly. and there you go. Or the restaurants that are starting to come to Lowell. And I think you're starting to see that.
Cobblestones would be a great place for them to go to, by the way.
Absolutely.
One of our sponsors here at Inside Lowell, or the Worthen, Lowell's oldest and most historic tavern. So you want to see housing there of some sort. The manager talks a lot about this affordable housing, but it's like affordable ownership, and he points right out to the old Shaughnessy Terrace and what happened there. We talked a lot about that. To me, that's the way to go with affordable housing, is affordable ownership, whether a traditional house or a condo, because that's how you build generational wealth. That's how you lift people out of poverty, rather than just putting a roof over their head.
Isn't that an American dream?
It is, and I'd like to see it more.
But you talked about River's Edge, right?
Yep.
You don't hear a peep over there.
I lived there for 6 months. It was phenomenal. I couldn't believe I was living at Shaughnessy Terrace.
People love it there. They've done a great job over there. And that's what we need in Lowell, is exactly that type of thing. Ownership. I'm just not a proponent of rentals, any more rentals for affordable. Not in the city. I think we've done our job, and I think having home ownership is the way to go. Absolutely.
All right. So you're not going to reconsider your vote about demolishing the building. Will you have to take another vote? Speculation over the weekend that the vote was improper. There was no public meeting or no notice and an opportunity for speakers to come. You made the motion as a follow-up to a report. Now, the motion to tear it down has been made multiple times before, right?
Well, since the topic was for conversation, I don't believe the open law meeting was broken at that point.
Have you gotten a ruling? Has anyone talked to the solicitor? Because you're going to have to, if it was, I don't anticipate the vote will be any different. And I misspoke. I said it was a 6-4 vote. It wasn't. It was actually a 6-2 vote. 2 counselors weren't there.
Right.
When I heard the clerk, Mike Geary, say 6 yeas and it passes, I just assumed, okay, 6-4. I knew that I knew that Paul Ratayem had recused themselves. My hunch is it passes 8-2 when you take that vote again. So it's just procedural, if anything else. But,
correct. But
so you don't know yet if you have to put it back on.
And if it does, then I'll put it back on, and my vote will stay the same.
All right. Let's see if we can get some information that's being hidden.
Okay.
In an executive session. What's the latest Hamilton Canal Innovation District? Salapoli. Where are we there? Are there negotiations taking place to try to get him out and also get him, something that will satisfy him for his investment?
So obviously it is executive session, so there's just so much that it can tell you. I will say that I believe negotiations are going forward. I believe, and I think we should be hearing word, I would say, within the next 2 or 3 months. Within the next
2 or 3 months. Interesting. That kind of coincides with what the manager was talking about in the next month or two, where
is that what he said?
The front runner city thing.
Oh,
is there a chance?
Teddy, I got to tell you, so I am cautiously optimistic person, right? So I'm in Toronto and I'm sitting at this table with all these people who are worth millions and millions.
Are you looking at my notes, by the way?
No, I'm not.
I have Toronto there.
Have you seen my size of my Texas? I can't see 2 feet in front of me.
Right.
I'm saying this, they're throwing out the red carpet. They're doing this, they're doing that, telling us what they're going to do for Lowell. And all I'm saying in the back of my mind is, what's in it for them? There's got to be something. Where's the angle? And
what's the catch? As I asked the manager and the mayor.
And
have you discovered one? Has anyone?
No. And that's why I'm at a point, and I have talked to Sam. I go, am I missing something? I asked the mayor. I go, am I missing something here? Well, I mean, you're gone. They're going through the MOA right now. This looks like we're not on the hook for anything. They're just going to come in here and throw a lot of money at us. So I don't think I'm beyond my scope when I said this could be another industrial revolution. I really believe that, Teddy. If they're talking about when they come in here and they bring in their people, and the reason why I say that, Teddy, I know you want to interrupt me, but when we saw that portion of Toronto that was redeveloped, it was mind-blowing. It really was. Because then you went over 2 streets over, and there was 50 encampments.
Right.
But the area that they did was incredible.
And that's how the whole area was beforehand, from what I'm told.
Right, exactly. So when I look at that, I'm going, and I'm picturing in my mind, boy, if this was Lowell, just that portion, the region area, I was blown away. I go, this would be perfect here. And I was talking to a couple other colleagues. I go, wouldn't this like perfect in this section of the city? Oh, there's the hotel. There's this. There's the huge Faneuil Hall section of Lowell. And the housing. They go up. They don't go this way.
Well, it's a young state rep, or at least a younger state rep than he was before he left. Tom Golden used to always talk to me about vertical building. Something he talks about now as the city manager. But to clarify, when you say they're going to give you this money, are they giving it to the city, or is this for potential investment and private developers? Because you talk about building housing, but the city doesn't necessarily want to build housing and then be in charge of maintaining that housing, right?
No, I think it's going to be an investment on their end. I haven't seen the final MOA at this point, but I believe that's what they want to go with. But it's mind blowing to know that the United Nations, which probably has $500 billion, now they have this these subcontracts or these subcontracts and this goes to this and this and this. And what they did to, I guess you have to see the proof in the pudding, and looking at Toronto and the people walking, but I know you love bicycle lanes.
But listen, if they're going to put $1 billion plus in investment into the city, I'd build them make a bicycle lane on every street for all I freaking care.
Plus, you're gonna have bicycle lanes because you got your Link project going. So there are going to be different things going on in the city from a commuting basis. I think you'll see less cars downtown. You're going to see more bikes, that type of thing. I think you can see more walking. More walking is what, and that's what I really stood out when I was in Toronto. They had crossing guards at every intersection in Toronto.
Really?
Even though there were red lights, they want to make sure. And the people walking to and from, retail all over the place, restaurants everywhere, from breakfast to lunch. It's something to, if people haven't been to Toronto, it's definitely something that you want to see, and you go, well, yeah, Lowell could be transformed into this.
And to be fair, Toronto was a great city. That was like a world-class city beforehand. Lowell's smaller, but if you can get some semblance of that, I think.
Well said.
I think I'm very optimistic. So let's bring that back to Hamilton Canal. Is that a potential target for this type of investment? Can they? I mean, can somebody introduce them to Sal Lopoli or another developer who's willing to tackle that project and whatnot? And can we get our, if not a 13-story, then a 10-story or 8-story? I'd be happy with that building out in Haverhill that I went to, and so I'd be happy with kind of a linchpin building like that somebody could look and say, oh wow, this is a place of vibrancy, and it would have commercial, it would have housing, but it would also have retail businesses, rooftop bars, first floor retail, restaurant, whatever the case may be. Is there a chance to see that in Hamilton Canal?
I think it has to be. I think it has to be. I really do, because I think that area of the city, Hamilton Canal Industrial District, I think is prime. So when you do talk about vertical buildings and retail and connecting to the other parts of Lowell and then the Link program, in another 5, 6, 7 years, I don't think you're going to recognize Lowell. I really don't. I know that's a bold. I know it's a bold statement to make, but I truly envision this city being transformed. And, you're slowly starting to see businesses coming back, restaurants starting to come back. But I can't wait when this project begins. And I believe UMass Lowell will be starting probably, less than a year. Yep. And Councilor Chen had brought in all the city councilors one by one and went through the project. Once again, a tremendous lady, very intelligent woman, and what a great plan.
It's no accident that Marty Meehan kind of handpicked her. I know he didn't make the selection, but he put her in a position where she could replace Jackie.
He'll take credit.
Maloney. But that's the future, to see Lowell be. You mentioned Industrial Revolution, which is exactly what I thought of when I first started hearing of Toronto. Like this has that kind of potential, where Lowell was once a place where presidents would come, famous authors would come from England. Charles Dickens would come and stop in Lowell, right?
We just got to fix the rotary now, and then we'll be all set.
Can we? I have a way for you to reduce the tax rate.
I've been in transportation for 30 years, Teddy, and I could have built something better than that. And no disrespect to anybody.
I know something had to be done, but I tried to go to the new bank drive-through over there. Okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I was started to come up, and where Fletcher Street meets up with, I don't even know what that street is, but it's where the Dunkin' Donuts is there. Yeah, right. Yeah. And people blocking that intersection so nobody can cross to the courthouse or even bang the right up onto the big fill. If the city wanted to balance the budget and basically with a 0% tax increase, all you have to do is ticket people for blocking that intersection. You would have so much money.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
I said, can
we get some enforcement over there?
I said, all right, there's bus lanes, and I'm going, I haven't seen one bus there. I
have seen 2 of them start to use it.
Well, that's if they're going straight. But if you're in that bus lane and you want to take a left onto Middlesex or right onto Middlesex, you can't, because the lanes to your left and right are going the same way with the signals. You would have to add.
I thought everybody's light turns red when the bus light is on.
You have to add another signal, which is another 45 seconds to a minute. And if you count, which I did, I usually come in from Chelmsford Street and I waited. It is close to 2.5 to 3 minutes.
If you miss that, I've taken my kids to school late because I've missed that first light, and then you start missing them all.
And if I see traffic on Chelmsford Street, I take Powell, I go to Liberty, then I go to Broadway.
Which makes the residents happy in those neighborhoods, I'm sure, yeah.
But
somebody predicted that on radio a few years ago, that's what was going to happen.
So I have been in contact with Liz, and she's going to be looking at it, but something needs to be rectified there, because you're not getting it. Right now, if you're a funeral director, you can use it because we can change it. You can change it.
Which, by the way, is smart.
Trinity Ambulance, they have. Yeah. You can change the light.
The buses can't.
LRTA doesn't have that ability.
Well, with these newfangled electric buses, they can't.
Yeah.
They can't change the lights.
You know, and that's another subject too. Is that they're seeing quite a few problems with EV buses.
See the big fire in Massachusetts. I forget the community in Massachusetts. They were parked. They weren't even running, and they just all blew up, caught on fire.
When I was
put our school kids on those.
I had taken a ride with the Worcester Public Schools. John Hennessy was my predecessor at the Lowell Public Schools, and we went to take a look at electric vehicles as compared to propane. And I actually liked the propane better because it was a little bit safer. This EV is a touchy subject right now.
I don't think you can say that for the front runner city people, though. We're all green. I'm green thumb.
That's what it is. It's green. I get it. But the manufacturers.
I never read it out any of my interviews. But
put me down for another 50 votes.
Well, you lost on.
I'm glad I came here, Teddy.
Before I let you go, I just want to reiterate that if you guys aren't able to come to some agreement that would allow the city to create a facilities department, which you are now in favor of, you might be open to considering privatization of certain services to get our buildings and facilities the love and care that they need. I just want to reiterate that, because that's the tease I'm going to use.
I get it.
When I put the little tease for this podcast out, that's what I'm using,
I think as a last resort.
Last resort. See there, you put the disclaimer on. All right,
I'm learning this politician stuff as I go.
You won back 10 votes, so now you're only down 40. All right, John Descoteaux, Lowell City Councilor, thank you for joining us. Good in-depth discussion. Not a lot of controversy from last night's meeting, so I'm glad you created some.
I appreciate you
for the content.
Invite me over, Teddy.
Always, we're going to get you back in the rotation, and we'll talk again many times between now and the end of this term and future terms for you as well.
You take care.
Thanks so much. And thank all of you for joining us here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, January 22nd edition of the Daily Pulse. Tomorrow, Real Estate Ray Booten will join us. We're going to talk a little bit about this broker's fees thing that's become a controversy, and Governor Healy has actually addressed it, but Ray, he's not shy about his opinion. So we're going to go all over the Mill City and all over the country if we have to. On Friday, we got Batch and Mick. Or Batch and the Hyphen, Mike Batchagalupo, Michaela Hondros McCarthy, they'll be joining us, and that's going to be a ton of fun. We got a lot of important issues, including the way people dressed for the inauguration on Monday, but so much else as well. Thank you for joining us here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, and again, go sign up for our e-blast list. You're going to get to see some very important content well before anybody else does. We'll eventually share it with everybody, and we never charge anybody, and we share it with everybody, but this one you might want to see before everybody else. So go sign up and become a member of our e-blast list. Doesn't cost you a thing, and I don't bombard you. I'm too lazy to write e-blasts anyway. So thanks again. Till tomorrow, stay safe, stay warm, everybody.